Rimworld, a game with infinite ways to play and succeed, and still lose in the end because you got invaded by 1,000 rats. In this challenge, every day the number of rats will double, and every single day they will get more and more violent. That is right, my name is the Wobble, and today we will be going to war against the rodent hive mind. We have exactly 15 days to build a base strong enough to stop the approaching, exponentially growing rat army, which will be then unleashed to attack us. Can we survive and claim victory over the rodent horde, or suffer a horrible death of bites and scratches? Let's go find out together. A quick recap, if you have no clue what Rimworld is, in this game you manage a colony of survivors on a distant planet. As mentioned, there are various ways to play and shape your society, including such classics like encouraged child labor or the cult of cannibalism. Or perhaps you like modding your games, then you can try something sophisticated, like the War Crimes Expanded mod. It really doesn't get better than this. In any case, today's tale begins as 9 unfortunate souls and one dashingly handsome returning character make a crash landing on an unknown planet. Other people in this crew are completely randomized as per Rimworld settings, but Jock McCockington is, as always, a reflection of his creator. That's me. That is why he is an abrasive masochist that has 0 social skills and an intellect level that barely rivals that of an orangutan. Regardless, even if our shortcomings accumulate more stress on this bunch of social rejects than the economy does on single parents, I proceeded to choose this spot as a good position for our anti-rat settlement. The first few days were spent building up basic necessities like comfortable beds, cooled storage, food production, and smooth walls. Because I swear if anyone here feels even the slightest hint of a negative emotion, this colony will fall down like a house of cards because someone will go on a murderous rampage to express their hatred about the color of the floor. After we had the necessities running, on the dawn of day 4, a wild chinchilla somehow broke into our humble home and started eating one of our colonists alive. A small rodent like it wasn't much of a fight, but I am sure that it was a signal of what's to come. Just to signal back our hatred towards rodents of all kind, we chopped up the poor chinchilla and ate it. Whether or not this would anchor some sort of gods was yet to be seen. We also had issues with this lady, Dumbo. She was constantly breaking down mentally, and probably would be the first one to fall. I am sure, however, that the fact that she is 95 years old or that she has dementia has nothing to do with this, and she just happens to be our weakest link. Or Mrs. Four Eyes over here, with her crippling addiction to alcohol. And food poisoning. Both truly were characters not suited for this situation at all, but to be fair, that was none of our concern. Fighting the looming rat army would be impossible with our bare hands, so I installed these primitive stone turrets on the south side of our base. As the rats would spawn on the southwest corner of the map, they would need to run a long way to get to this choke point between mountains and then cross a river which would slow them down immensely and thus make them easy targets for our turrets. That was my very hopeful theory, at least. Alright, I also cramped these research desks in the dark cave in the back of our base. In there, who I can only hope were the wisest among us, would go and flip the same piece of paper over and over for hours and days on end. Whether this truly was the method to achieving access to some divine information or pure unmedicated schizophrenia, I do not know. And by the evening of the 11th day, our base looked like this. And what was this horrible contraption, you might ask? It was a maze filled with mouse traps. So in theory, if the rats made it past our turrets, I would just lock these doors, and since this is the only clear pathway to our base, the rats would go through the maze and step on every trap. Flawless strategy, if you ask me. My only concern now was the ever-increasingly obvious lack of trees around us, since building this wasn't very cheap at all. But how our behavior would affect the planet around us was none of our concern, since we weren't gonna be here for a long time, but rather for a really good time. On the morning of day 14, we got a good chance to test our defenses. A turtle had gone mad and seeked to attack our base. It didn't attack the walls and tried to go to the open path, just like I had hypothesized. Upon meeting our very inaccurate turrets, it got absolutely squashed. Sit down, easy peasy. And thus, on day 15, our base looked like this. We had added arrow turrets to our line of defense, and the rat combustion chamber was ready. tomorrow morning the Horde would begin its attacks. And thus, on the morning of day 16, the first two of increasingly many rats appeared at the corner of the map. And just like that, the first wave was defeated. That wasn't too bad. I'm sure we could be here for a long time. The same went for the next day, when 4 rats appeared. Although concerningly, already some of them crossed the river without issue. This could prove to be very problematic. With 8 rats, the first one made it to the maze. Unlucky. Still, now I thought was the time to start thinking about further defenses, so I planned out this extension. A room filled with sandbags and turrets at the back. This would hopefully clear out any excess rodents that would make it out of the maze. Next day, 16 rats would approach us with murderous intent. This time they got pretty far. Seeing that our turrets on the front had a pretty hard time hitting anything, I thought of this design to hopefully funnel the rats into straight lines, so our turrets would hopefully get more hits in. 32 rats were up next, and it was a bloody battle that took out over half of our traps. A brave hero wandered out into the battlefield to distract the rats and thus saved us from further calamity. For now. However, next morning an uneasily moving and squeaking mass of 64 rats started making their way towards us. This time the rat horde had insider information about our defenses, and they completely wrecked our turrets, all of our traps, and we had to resort to fighting them in hand-to-hand combat. As is supposedly common knowledge, rats aren't usually trained martial artists. So we won. For now. The entire night our brave colonists repaired our defenses as best as we could, but I feared this wouldn't be enough to defend against the cruise missile that was the 128 rats approaching our location. The bloodiest battle of all was fastly approaching. As our improvised defenses struggled to hold any meaningful ground in the face of the humongous rat horde, I resorted to moving our colonists inside the maze and sandbag chamber to defend. This is when I noticed a critical little flaw in my design. The rats rotated all the way around the mountains and attacked us from 2 angles. We were now squished between 2 waves of blood-hungry beasts, and as we held our ground as the best we could, one by one our heroes fell. No, McCucking, you glorious bastard! Eventually, we sadly lost the battle. In the end, 8 of our colonists died from the battle, and 2 lucky contenders, Roach and Vera, who got funneled into this little space during the battle, were left unharmed. Well, I'll be damned. Look at this mess. Nothing but rotting corpses and blood everywhere. So in my eyes, a very successful fight. Okay, let's be a little bit realistic. Our base is in complete shambles, and our chances of surviving the next wave even through hiding would be near 0. So I've got a better plan. For your entertainment. Behold! Here lies what I would call our piece de resistance, or magnum opus, culmination of our defense technologies, the Anti-Rodent Wall 3000. It has multiple layers of stone turrets and sandbags to slow the enemy on approach. And on the other corner is the Unholy Rodent Armageddon. I can't tell you how many rats there are, but I spawned them in with an auto-clicker that clicks once every 0.1 seconds. And I did it for around 5 minutes straight. With quick maths, that is something closer to 3000 rats, but who knows really. So let's see who will win. Fight! Oh. That's a good sign. I can't help but notice my frame rate seems to be struggling a little bit. Alrighty, slowly but surely they're making their way. I restarted the raid to get the rest of the rats moving too, and... oh. That is a horrifying sight. By the way, the game is running on the 3 slam speed, but it really does not feel like it at all. Still going. It has taken them closer to 10 minutes to reach the wall, but here they are. Rats versus the wall, final round. Alright, the rats seem to be taking some sort of a formation approach. And a very explosive one at that. Oh my god, it took out like 3 rats out of a million. Amazing. You know, maybe the rats are more civilized than we thought. They seem to be forming neat little lines. God, every time the turrets have reloaded and start to fire, the game stops. And the soundscape is truly something to behold, kind of like a squeaky saran wrap. And still some are making it through, my god. Well, this was a humongous disappointment, but a pretty funny one nonetheless. Thank you so much for watching this video, this was a ton of fun to make. Rimworld has pretty much endless potential for chaotic and wacky stories, and whatever we did here is just barely scratching the surface. So do comment if you want more videos about Rimworld, or tell me, what do you think of rats? I'm sure you guys will have the most sophisticated opinions. Anyway, like and subscribe if you found this video funny. I've been Wobble, yours truly, and I will see you on our next adventure. Take care.